Hey everybody, welcome back to the Former Athlete Society Q&A call where we break down the real questions from athletes who refuse to hang up their competitive mindset. So whether you're a weekend warrior, a high-performing professional, or somebody that's just chasing the next personal best, this show is about taking that drive that you once had in your sport and applying it to the rest of your life. So without further ado, let's get into today's show. Today, we've got a jam packed lineup of training talk, recovery strategies, straight up life performance hacks and tips. 5 new questions rolled into this week, each one from people who are serious about staying sharp, staying strong, and staying in the game long after the final whistle. So, I want to cover what we are talking about. First, we're stepping onto the platform with a question about Olympic weightlifting shoes. Are they justified? Are they hype? Do you actually need them? If you've ever debated about dropping cash on a pair of lifters, then you're going to want to check out that question. That's an awesome one. Next, we head from the platform to the office because one listener today wanted to know about strategies to burn more calories throughout their workday. So we'll talk about a hack and what you can do to change your environment to keep your metabolism moving. From there, we slide into the recovery zone with a deep dive into supplementation, specifically about magnesium and sort of the sleep implications with that. So is it just another pill collecting dust in your cabinet, or does it actually have some merit? We'll get into certainly answering that question. And then we have one that comes straight from the medical side of performance, something that's really cool regarding blood tests. Should every athlete do it? Should only former athletes do it? What should a person like you or me be asking their primary care physician to stay ahead of the game of their health? And then finally, we wrap up with a big one for anyone that's chasing performance in the weight room, and that's talking about hamstring strength and length. Does a short hamstring really limit your power output and speed, and what should you actually do about it? Each of these questions today hits a different corner of what it means to stay at the top of your game, from gear to recovery to your health habits to health monitoring and raw athleticism. So, we're going to break them all down and share the science, the coaching perspectives, and the real world experience that you can only get from somebody like me who's been a strength coach in the game for nearly 20 years. So, we're going to get into it. Nonetheless, grab a notebook, let's settle in, and let's kind of kick this thing off with our first question. Your next squat PR might be hiding in your shoes. Now, literally, here's why your footwear could be the biggest upgrade that you have not made yet. So, let's start with this question that hits the heart of every weight room. Do Olympic lifting shoes really make a difference, or are they just an expensive flex? So, here's the deal. A true weightlifting shoe has a raised solid heel and a completely non-compressible sole. They're as hard as a rock. And that elevated heel changes your ankle angle, which lets you sit deeper into a squat while keeping a more upright torso. We all know this as lifters, certainly as strength and conditioning coaches. So for movements like cleans and snatches and front squats and back squats that require maybe extra ankle mobility, they can actually be the difference between missing forward and standing tall with confidence, right? Plus, the solid base means that there's no squish in your underfoot. So every pound of force that you drive through the floor actually transfers directly into the bar. But, and this is really important, you only need lifters if you're training movements that benefit that sort of mechanical shift. If your sessions are mostly deadlifts or lunges or general strength work, a flat shoe like a Converse or a firm cross trainer might actually serve you better and probably actually saves you a little bit of money as well. So I personally used lifters for years, right? When I was really, really into sort of back squatting, front squatting, and Olympic lifting, right? I had an Olympic lifting program. It was the staple of what I was running those days. Now, these days, listen, I'm not chasing a snatch PR or a hang clean PR. Yeah, you already know this, right? We've talked about this all the time. Your boy's trying to get stronger and leaner. So I don't need to wear my Nike lifters. But if you're chasing Olympic numbers and you struggle with ankle mobility in a squat, then lifters are probably a legit investment. Otherwise, focus on building strong, mobile ankles and pick a stable, flat shoe for most of your strength work. It's about matching the tool to your goal. So don't let marketing dictate your gear to any extent. So, nonetheless, let's move on to our next question today. However, before I do so, a couple different things. Number one, um, you already know this, right? My name's Adam Ringler. I'm a strength coach. I've been one for nearly my entire professional career, almost 20 years at this rate. And I run this YouTube channel. That's what I do, right? I run a podcast called the Decoding Excellence Show. I have a website. It's over right here, adamringler.com. That's how you can join the Former Athlete Society and the Blueprint, both of which I run for free here. But I'm trying to give you all the tools, the lessons, the habits, the disciplines, all of the educational content necessary so that you can live the very best life that you have. So let's move on to our next question. And I'm going to set it up this way. Sitting all day is wrecking more than your posture. It's quietly slowing down your metabolism. And here's how you can fight back while you work. So I love this question. This question's super cool. And it cuts to what we all need as busy working professionals uh, in the workplace. So this next one comes from Jasmine, and she's out of Springfield, Missouri. And it's one that I know a lot of people wrestle with. And it says this: Coach, just trying to read it here. Coach, I'm at a desk job for 8, sometimes 10 hours a day. What can I do during the workday to keep my calorie burn up without looking like I'm training for a marathon in the break room? Now, listen, I love this question. First thing, movement snacks. Movement snacks? What do you mean by that? Think of these as like little bursts of activities that you sprinkle in throughout the day, like a snack, right? Set a timer to stand or walk every 25 to 30 minutes. Even 2 minutes of brisk walking around the office or a quick set of air squats by your desk compounds into serious calorie burn over a week. I also like what I call phone call laps. Particularly for me, I'm looking for my phone call laps. Anytime that you're on a call, pace, right? Move around. It's subtle, sure, but if you're on a call for a total of an hour, that's an hour of extra low intensity movement for your body. And your body will love you. And it will increase your non exercise sort of activity, thermogenesis, your NEAT, and it will end up expending more calories for you. Now, let's also talk about your environment upgrades. And this is a big one. A standing desk can be a game changer, right? It keeps your hips, your spine engaged, and increases your energy expenditure without you even noticing. And if you really want to level it up, consider a desk that can lower all the way to the floor. Now, Instagram's been sort of marketing this to me quite a bit. I have not purchased it by any means, but it talks about like lowering it down so that you can actually sit on the floor on a cushion. Something that I would certainly like to do. I sit on a cushion when I meditate at home. However, I look at this as like a way of working on your mobility. I could sit cross-legged or in a half kneel position. I could work on my hip flexors. It sneaks in extra mobility work while I type at the computer. Now, you pair that setup with a small walking treadmill under your workstation, and now you have a slow burn calorie machine. And here's a bonus, right? And this one probably pays double. You take your lunch on the move. Okay, right? What's that mean? Instead of sitting to eat, head outside for a 10 to 15-minute walk while you're eating a simple meal. You'll get light, natural vitamin D, you'll boost your digestion, right? And you'll keep your calorie burn sort of humming. Now, none of this requires gym clothes or awkward stares around the office. It's just a shift of how you think about your work time. Now, your body doesn't care whether those calories come off during a deadlift session or if you're on the stair mill or while you're pacing during a Zoom call, right? Movement is movement. And over time, it just adds up really, really quickly. All right. So if you've joined me thus far in our Former Athlete Society cause and today's Q&A call, there's a couple things I need you to do right now. Right now. Number one, I need you to hit the like button, subscribe, hammer down on that notification bell and just give me a follow, right? Let us know that we're trying to grow this YouTube channel into something really cool. So when you hit that notification bell over there, that helps out the algorithm. That allows other people to see our videos as well. It also gives you first dibs when we're dropping videos because we're dropping videos all of the freaking time. So I want you to get first notifications of it. Okay, do me that favor. Now, are you struggling to fall asleep even when you're exhausted? One simple mineral might be the quick fix that you've been missing. So this next question is cool. Comes from Marcus, and Marcus is out of Athens, Georgia. And it's a good one because sleep is where the real recovery happens, right? And I'll get into something that I've been doing certainly before I answer this, right? I've been waking up super early in the summer. I don't know what was going on with my body, but it was just like it was super weird. I was waking up at like 3:45, 4 a.m. Now I'm actually waking up much later. My body's actually allowing me to sleep. So maybe I was stressed or something, right? And I've heard this expression, if you're waking up early to do extra conditioning, you're stepping over dollars to pick up dimes. Now, with Marcus, right, this question is really cool. Marcus asks, I always lose it on my screen here for you guys. So let's see. I've heard magnesium can help with deeper sleep. Do you use it? And is there a specific type that you recommend? Okay, Marcus, this is cool. Number one, though, I always have to start off with this. Here's the thing. I'm not your doctor. I'm not a registered dietitian, but I can share what certainly worked for this guy, right? For me and a lot of other athletes that I've coached. Magnesium is involved in hundreds of different cellular reactions. And one of the biggest ones is just calming the nervous system. So think of it as like a natural brake pedal after a long, intense day. When your body is low in magnesium, muscles can twitch, your heart rate might actually stay slightly elevated, and your mind doesn't fully downshift. Adding it into your evening routine can actually help you feel that sort of subtle drop into a much more calmer state. At least for me, I feel it. Now, buyer beware, not all magnesium is the same, right? So if your goal is to have better sleep, I tend to lean into forms like magnesium glycinate or magnesium threonate. They're gentler on the stomach, certainly. So that's one thing. You don't want to be running off to the bathroom when you're trying to fall asleep. And they tend to be better absorbed for nervous system support. So personally, I take a small dose about an hour before bed, glass of water with low crystal light, nothing dramatic, just being super consistent with it. And here's the bonus that most people forget about. Dark leafy greens, almonds, pumpkin seeds, right? Those are all food sources that quietly add up during the day. So supplements can help, sure, but nutrition should always still lead the way. Now, the bigger picture is probably this, and it's building a nighttime routine around supplementation. So you will never out supplement poor sleep hygiene. So things like dimming the lights, right? Dropping the phone, right? Getting rid of that out of your bedroom, maybe stretching for a few minutes each night. Magnesium isn't magic by itself, but when you pair it with solid sleep habits, it can actually make a pretty big difference. At least that's been my experience and what I see with athletes that both I've coached and coached remotely is that when they've done that and they train hard and they need that recovery piece, magnesium's been a really big piece to what they've added into their body. All right. So that said, a lot of you guys wonder this, and I've answered it on previous former athlete society YouTube videos in the past, but I'm going to do it once again here, right there, right on my screen. This is my Instagram handle. It's at Adam Ringler. It's my first and last name, so that's pretty easy stuff there. Now, if you go over there and you give me a follow, you're going to get behind the scenes access to what we're building, not only here at the university I work for, you're going to get some sports science info. You're going to get some former athlete society. You're going to get some personal info. You're going to get sort of some sports science and data and analytics info, right? It's essentially a POV behind the scenes of everything that I do, right? And I'm pretty transparent as a strength and conditioning coach. So if you're interested in the lifestyle and the professional vocation of what we've done here in strength conditioning, then this is a no-brainer, right? Just go over there, give me a follow, shoot me a DM, say, hey, coach, I followed you from YouTube, from your YouTube channel. I wanted to be a part of this. I wanted to kind of see what you're doing. And hey, man, we'll have a conversation, right? So do me that favor. Let's move on to our next question. This one's kind of cool. Have you ever wondered which blood tests actually matter for performance and long-term health, here's what I check every single time I go to the doctor. So this next question comes from Leah out in Grand Junction, Colorado. Cool. And sort of our neck of the woods, if you will. And it's a super cool one. It's a smart one because data can reveal what the mirror never will. So Leah asked me this, right? And I want to make sure I get this right. When you get blood work done, what panels do you look for and why? I know this differs from females to males, but my husband was wondering. Okay, interesting. So for me, Leah, a solid baseline starts with a couple of different things. Now, listen, I am not well versed. I'll be honest with you on this. I'm not well versed as far as what blood panels might differ from male to female and what might be more important for female physiology versus male physiology when it comes to an aging athlete like myself. However, so lean on your primary care physician and the people that you work with, your physicians as well. But for me, a comprehensive metabolic panel and a complete blood count, those two alone give a really quick snapshot of a couple different things: my kidney function, my liver enzymes, electrolyte balance, my red blood cell health, essentially how well your body's plumbing and electrical systems are running. Now, from there, I'll add a lipid panel to see my cholesterol ratios and triglycerides because, quite frankly, those numbers speak volumes when it comes to cardiovascular risk and how your nutrition and training are translating inside of your arteries. Now, I'm reaching across my desk here for you, Leah, because this is another thing that I do all the time. This is my Witherings blood pressure cuff. I take blood pressure readings about 3 to 4 times a week. Again, just to get a kind of under the hood look as far as how my blood pressure is and how my cardiovascular health is. But back to sort of the blood lab questions that you had, I also like to include markers that tie directly into performance and recovery. So things like your fasting glucose, your HbA1c levels, they help me track my blood sugar control over time. In the past, I've gotten things as far as like thyroid hormones. So like your TSH, free T3, free T4, certainly. And that tends to show how my metabolism is firing. Now, if you are like me, which you probably are if you're watching this video, and you train hard, it's probably worth checking your vitamin D and your ferritin because, again, low vitamin D can blunt your immune function. And ferritin tells you about your iron stores, right? You're out of Grand Junction, out of Colorado, you're up in altitude. All of that affects your oxygen delivery and your energy. So here's the mindset piece that I like to at least keep in mind when I'm, doing these blood draws. I'm not chasing perfect numbers for vanity. I use all of these labs as feedback. So if my ALT or my AST, which is your sort of your liver enzymes, if those are starting to creep up, maybe I need to check my supplementation, or maybe I need to have an honest conversation if if I'm having one to too many IPAs in the summertime or something like that, right? If your fasting glucose rises, maybe it's a cue to revisit your carbs or your late night snacking, right? The point isn't fear mongering, it's awareness, right? And you can't manage what you don't measure. And a yearly or, multiple times a year, I like to go every 6 months. I've done it every 3 months at some point in times. Right? If those blood panels feel like a dashboard for your engine, it's because, quite frankly, they are, right? The more or the most people that are training recreationally, then probably, yeah, right? A once a year check is more than enough to stay ahead of problems before they become real issues. Now, if you're hardcore about your health, yeah, maybe you need to go every 6 months or every 3 months. So, again, whether it's you or it's your husband, all of those things are probably a good baseline measure for decent blood work. So, great question, and one that certainly I love because it gets under the hood as far as your health, your longevity, and your performance. Listen, we don't have performance if we don't have health. So, great question on that. This will be our last question. Let's go ahead and just tackle this final one. Stretching your hamstrings every day, but do you still feel tight? Here's probably the real reason and what actually works. So, this last one comes from David, and David's out of Bowling Green, Kentucky. And it's a good one for anyone who's ever felt like their hamstrings just refuse to loosen up. So, David asks, What's the best way to finally improve hamstring flexibility? I stretch all the time and nothing changes, right? And listen, if you're like any of us, that I hate that feeling. First thing, if you're stuck in a cycle of static stretching with no progress, you're not alone, right? The hamstrings are they just aren't one single muscle group that you can just yank on like a rubber band. They're actually a much bigger part of a more complex, bigger chain that includes your hips and your glutes and even your core to some extent. And so when you sit all day, like most of us do in the real world, commuting or at work or on the couch or anywhere else, your hip flexors shorten and it tilts your pelvis forward. And that anterior pelvic tilt actually lengthens the hamstrings. So they feel a little bit tight, even though they're technically overstretched. Now, pulling harder with the basic toe touches can actually make that imbalance a little bit worse. So, a more effective approach is PNF stretching, something I love to do. Proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. It's a mouthful, right? But it sounds fancy, but it's really simple. It's just this: contract, relax, then stretch, right? For example, you lay on your back with a strap around your foot, you gently kick against the strap, so you're 4 or 5 seconds, and then you relax, and then you draw the leg up closer. You contract the quads, right? You lock out the leg, then you relax, and then you pull it up a little bit more, right? You repeat that 2 to 3 times, and you often gain immediate range of motion because you're teaching the nervous system to allow more length. Now you pair that with daily micro mobility sessions. Think things like glute bridges, hip flexor openers, and a few minutes of dynamic hamstring sweeps before your workouts. You're great. You're going to be good. Here's the lifestyle piece that also adds up over time too, David. Break up your sitting. So if you work at like again, like I mentioned earlier in the show, a standing desk for part of the day, or even drop down to the floor and you do some cross-legged sitting when you're, composing an email on your phone, all of that stuff helps, right? And it keeps your hips open and it keeps the posterior chain engaged. So over weeks, that combination of PNF stretching, smart warm-ups, less chair time, improves your flexibility, but also helps you build stronger, more resilient hamstrings that can actually handle the demand of sport and heavy training. So, flexibility is a conversation between your nervous system and your muscles, and you need to teach the system and the muscles and all of this. And if you do, it'll flow together and it'll work quite well, David. So, great question. I appreciate that one. Um, let's do this, guys. That is going to be it, right? And it brings us maybe towards the end of this 20-ish some minute former athlete society Q&A session. And again, we talked about things like Olympic weightlifting shoes and the value of those. Should you buy them? Should you not buy them? Can you wear them? Do you need them? Right? We tackled some practical ways that you can burn calories throughout your workday. Things like walking around, maybe, reorganizing your desk setup in your working environment. We talked about magnesium as a supplementation for improved sleep quality and why the types of magnesium actually really matter, more so than what people realize. We covered blood panels, right? What I check, what I keep an eye on for my liver, my health, my metabolic health, my kidneys, my heart, right? All of those things, because knowing your numbers can give you a head start on staying strong for the long term. And then we finally we wrapped up about something so simple as far as hamstring flexibility and some PNF stretching and breaking up that all day sitting routine once again. So if you've joined me this far, I just want to say this. I want to thank you for everybody that has watched this replay, that's watched this YouTube video. Your questions, your curiosity, your drive to stay sharp, both physically and mentally, are what makes this former athlete society and this community so special. At least for me, it gives me enjoyment knowing that you're taking this information and applying it. So, if you've enjoyed today's session, you're like, man, hey, Coach Adam, thanks so much. Like, super thumbs up on what you've been sharing. Then do me this favor, share this video with a teammate, with a training partner, with anybody who could use a little former athlete society energy. And don't forget, you can also drop your own questions anytime inside our community page at adamringler.com. Again, that's right here on the screen, adamringler.com, right? Head over there, drop in your questions there because quite frankly, they might be featured on the very next Q&A that we do. So until then, stay consistent, stay strong, keep chasing that next level. As always, everybody, again, my name's Adam Ringler. Thanks for spending part of your day with me. And as always, I will see each and every one of you in the next session. Take care.